Thank you.
Thanks for dropping by. Today, basically, I'm looking at some of those neat old Dragonstorm cards that we've been opening over the last couple weeks. And I wanted to find a home for Ugin, since we got lucky on one of our shorts opening our very last collector booster of Dragonstorm and pulled a double Ugin pack. So I've got those two nice versions of that card, and I want to try using it because it looks interesting. This video is going to show some of the gaps in my knowledge because some changes happened and definitely some cards were printed during that period, which would affect this sort of deck and this sort of play. Okay. Even Planeswalkers in general have changed since I remember them. I remember when Planeswalkers were introduced in Lorwyn. There's one in each color. Mythic rares didn't exist yet, so they were all rares. And
we're a lot earlier than we normally are, so I apologize for that if you're coming in late.
And then, to my knowledge, Shards of Alara came out, and Planeswalkers moved to Mythic. And I don't know if there's been lower rarity Planeswalkers. I would expect there has at some point. But it seems to me that there was a big War of the Spark story arc, and a lot of Planeswalkers were desparked, and so now they don't want Planeswalkers hopping from plane to plane all over the place anymore. And yet they make a set like Aetherspark where your race cars are driving from plane to plane. So that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Seems like they still want plane hopping even though they don't want Planeswalkers. But the game was always built around Planeswalkers. It's just you were the Planeswalker, and then thematically they can all these other cards. Something else I noticed recently regarding Planeswalkers. Here's the other big 7-cost colorless Planeswalker that I was familiar with before I took my hiatus. It seemed quite strong at the time. I didn't get a whole lot of use using it. But I noticed a new version came out, and I've been comparing the two. I grabbed one of these about 2-3 months ago because I heard of a neat little combo with it using a Darksteel card, which I had happened to recently pull one of as a special guest card, or whatever they call it, the list card from one of the Lord of the Rings packs, Tales of Middle-earth. So I figured I might as well grab the other side of the combo. And just the whole Planeswalkers having abilities which are just active all the time thing. I don't remember that being a thing when I stopped playing. But perhaps even more befuddling is now Planeswalkers are legendary Planeswalkers, whereas before they were just Planeswalkers. And that was right from their introduction in Lorwyn, as far as I can remember. So is there a difference? Because Planeswalkers always had the legendary sort of characteristic where there could only be one copy of a one in play, as far as I recall. Maybe I'm just completely out to lunch on that, and maybe that's something new, and that accounts for the name change. Maybe it was something to do with commander, and if it was a legendary, now it could be used as your commander, and you can have a creature or a Planeswalker as your commander. That doesn't exactly sound right to me. I remember EDH rules were always, it was a legendary creature and Planeswalkers were excluded, but maybe things have changed, and maybe somebody can clarify some of those questions for me, because I do have some gaps in my knowledge from that decade away. And a lot of this doesn't make sense to me. But I'm going to dig through one of my old Eldrazi deck. Now, I built that deck sometime after Rise of the Eldrazi, using some cards that had come out since that time and dating back to earlier stuff. Most of my decks are constructed 60 card, up to 4 of a card type decks. Didn't quite catch that.
Good, just head to Club Impact for some
okay.
time.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with Club Impact, but sounds
probably
like fun.
Places and States.
Yeah. And I just got derailed. Where was I?
I don't know. I wasn't listening. I'm looking at Pokemon cards on my iPad.
Good to know. Even Cheese doesn't listen to me. There you go. lets me know I'm in my right place.
Well, that's a cute card.
So, maybe I'll get back around to it if I can figure out where I was. But yeah, there's definitely been changes over the years. Anyway, we stopped by a neighboring town's card shop today, and I picked up a few commons and uncommons. And well, no, I shouldn't say that. I actually got something of all 4 rarities, I believe, just out of their binder because they are basically out of product of Dragonstorm already, like a lot of other places. The only thing they had left was 4 boxes of commander decks. 3 of them were the same deck, and 1 was a different deck. And they're obviously all the less popular decks if they're the ones
Hey,
that are
Tank,
left.
how's it going?
So, and at the prices the things are at now, due to just the price of things in Canada these days, I wasn't going to buy one blind. So, if I'm going to get a commander deck, I want to do a little research on it first at those prices. But I did get a couple commons. I was impressed with these Dispelling Exhales. They're very much like a Mana Leak, except a little better if you got a dragon around, a little worse if you don't. Still quite reasonable rate for a 2 mana counter spell, even if there is a condition on it. So I grabbed 2 of those. So I've got a playset of 4 now if I want a playset of 4 for one of my constructed decks. I grabbed a few of these uncommon dragons that have an Omen ability, so you can pay it a cheaper cost with a different color mana for these ones that I picked up. There are same color ones as well, but I think I got most of those already. I didn't have as many as the off-color ones because they're uncommons instead of commons, I suppose. So, picked up a few of them. This one I think I already had, but in the other frame.
Hey, Becca!
This one I didn't have any of.
Becca's here. Becca's here. Yay,
Welcome, Becca.
Becca's
Welcome,
here.
Tank. Thanks. Glad to see you both.
I don't think people want me to sing. Hey,
I
Hungry
do
Hollow.
like the art on some of these.
How are you
and some of
doing?
the abilities are quite interesting, too. I don't like the body on this one. It seems a little bit small for a few
I
of
would
them
have seen
but
you guys come in, but I got distracted by looking at Pokemon cards online.
Anyway.
Was
Those
that
are all
Flareon's cute
additions for, a quarter or so, maybe a little bit more for some of them. And then I picked up a couple of rares. So this is one I didn't have. Mama Spokat liked the art on it, and it's one
I don't like snakes, but the purple's pretty.
See, I remember Mystical Snake, which was very similar casting cost. It was, I think, 2 blue, a green, and 1, so 4. But it costed, it was 2 color instead of 3 color, and it was a 2/2.
Isabel,
and counter a spell.
Can you not run away from her and make her scream?
So this is a 3/3.
Take her with you.
And again, the same sort of as a counter spell. But it can only counter creature spells, or destroy an enchantment, or gain some life and dig through your deck. So it's got more options, but it's got an extra color. So it looks like an interesting card. I wouldn't mind trying. Ambling Storm Shell. I pulled 2 of these in the other frame. They didn't have the little reminder text, and I rather enjoy playing with them. They're a little awkward, but they're kind of fun and kind of clunky, and they can be powerful if you get the right stuff going on. Black, green, blue, huh? Yeah, it's a weird color combination that I haven't played much of before, but it's one of the legendary dragons I happened to pull in one of my packs, so I did build a deck around it, and honestly, it's a fun little deck once it gets rolling. It's also where these are. If I can build a deck that's a little bit more consistent with more turtles, I think these could be quite strong. And
yay, turtles!
So I got one that actually has the reminder text on it for exactly how the stun counters work, which I was scratching my head a little to try to remember the specifics of. I also picked up another one of these because I opened 3, so this will give me a play set. One of them is the 2-sided one, so you need to use opaque black plastics for, but this has proven to be a fairly strong card for me, and it's definitely an upgrade over my old Mahamati to Djinns. Sadly, I do like Mahamati. I used to use Quicksilver Dragon, which is, similar casting cost for a body that was almost as big and had a couple of other little possible abilities. This is just straight bigger for the same casting cost with extra abilities. Yeah, I think it trumps both Mahamati and Silver Dragon quite handily. And the one mythic rare I picked up was one that I'm pretty sure I have a home for directly. So this is the Storm Scale Scion. 6 cost, just like the old Shivan Dragon, but it's only a 4/4 flyer. But other dragons you control get +1/+1. Usually you don't have a whole lot of dragons in play unless you're doing something tricky. This card is tricky itself because Storm. So, I already have a Dragonstorm deck, which will play Seething Songs, Rites of Flame. What's the name of the one from Kamigawa block? There's a bunch of red rich mana rituals. There's some black
Ryan.
mana rituals.
Welcome in, Ryan.
I got some of them in there too. And it would just drop a bunch of those and then Dragonstorm and dig through your deck and get some dragons, pop them into play. This would not play well as just another dragon to go and get and plop into play. But you can only run 4 copies of the Dragonstorm card, and sometimes you wish you had an extra. So here's an extra card that I could play for Storm count a little bit earlier, because Dragonstorm costs like 9 or something. This costs 6. So on the first turn, potentially, if I had a couple of mana rituals in my hand, first or second turn, it would be fairly straightforward to just drop a couple rituals and play this, and end up with 3 or 4 large dragons in play on turn 1 or 2. That's still pretty decent. Not as devastating as an actual Dragonstorm, where you can cherry pick your dragons, but I think it's worth trying once or twice and seeing how that pans out in Dragonstorm. And it goes in the pile. That's more potential than some of the other Dragonstormy cards that I've been considering before. I've heard this one might go well in Dragonstorm. You really need to have a couple of cheap dragons to drop in order to make it worthwhile, but it is good for getting Storm count up. Whether or not, even if you can't use it for the mana, just playing it for free is another Storm count for whatever you're going to play for your Storm.
That's good, Becca.
So that's a possibility. Don't think it's the strongest possibility, but it's a possibility. Dracogenesis is sort of a different mechanic than Storm, Dragonstorm decks of old, or at least my old one. So I'm not sure if that'll incorporate well, or that would be something else.
You made his mom mad at you?
The Breaching Dragonstorm is another one that could be interesting. It won't play well in Dragonstorm, but it could play well with Dracogenesis and other big beasties. So still brainstorming on those sort of for that idea. And like I said, I picked up a few of my pickups. I think have particularly benefits for blue decks. I always kind of was partial to blue right since my early days. But yeah, back to the Ugins. So I did my pack opening, got surprised by Ugin, and then surprised by double Ugin. And unfortunately, or fortunately, well, it's nice to get different versions, I guess. The baby back Ugin is interesting, but basically if you're going to play it, you need to be playing dark back sleeves. That's less than half my decks, but I do have a fair number, and it just so happens that one of the decks that runs that is my old Eldrazi deck. And it's due for an update anyway. So I'm going to go through that and see if I can find some room to scooch in an Ugin or two. The other place I could put it is something like one of my just classic big vintage decks, if I think I can get enough value out of it. It is an interesting card, and those decks can get 7 mana fairly easily.
Not now, Lucas.
It is a neat card.
Later. Go. We'll talk later.
And I might try one there if I only want to put one in the in this deck, but we'll see. This deck uses a bunch of different tricks to get lots of mana out, because while the newer Eldrazi were a lot more economical in terms of mana costs, the original Eldrazi were beasts of expense, but if you could play them, they were also incredibly powerful. So, yeah, let's take a look at my Eldrazi deck and then go from there. It may need some tweaking in the mana base, because I did substitute out some of my better Urza's lands when I was putting together my vintage binder, like for 1993, 1994 printed sets, original stuff. So I might have to phase some of those back in if I'm short one somewhere. But we'll see as we go. So let's just flip this around.
So I have a Pokemon binder idea brewing in my head here. I know it's not.
I'll put Mr. Ugin's 1 and 2 up here.
But it could be neat. Do you want to hear my Pokemon binder ideas?
If you like.
I don't know if we can do it, but I was thinking it could be neat.
This really needs to be widescreen. I can't get enough of rows of cards.
I'm sorry. But I was thinking maybe we can try and do a binder where we collect 1 card from each set released and put it in a binder, or however many binders we need. And I don't know if we want to further, like, try and do, like, the Pokedex that way, too. I don't know if we can do that. I don't know. Might need more than 1. I don't know. It's an idea. In the very least, I'd like to do 1 card from each set, from the first set to the last.
So once I've got this all sorted out, I'll go through
my first
more
master
specifically.
set that wasn't from McDonald's. Yeah, you finished that. Good job. Or it will be soon. Congrats. Tank is just at work trying to catch a little bit of the stream on break. Nice.
Well, thanks for squeezing us in where you can. I know our times have been a little all over the place lately.
Yeah, we're doing this a little bit earlier because today is election day in Canada. This is all you're getting from us about politics.
Yeah, I want to be able to watch the results as they come in because I think it's important. Anyone who is in Canada watching us, if you haven't voted yet...
Stop watching us and go vote!
Right, it's more important. So...
Yep.
There's that.
I just recommend you do your own research.
Yeah, well, there's no more time to research now.
Well, if you have a few minutes and you're able to.
I suppose, but...
Just make sure you're not just, taking out...
There's an oddball. Everything else is modern frames.
That's all I'm saying. Already voted. Good job, Ryan. And honestly, I don't even care if people agree with us. I just think everybody should vote.
Yeah, it's important. Important to get your views out there into the system. So...
Yeah. Now, with that said... Back to Dragon talk. Or Pokemon talk, because I like to talk about Pokemon on the side. What do you guys think about my
Some
Pokemon
of these
idea?
Eldrazi's are definitely getting a little obsolete, and I might just substitute the Planeswalkers in for them, because I'm sure there are better options
Not
these
everyone
days.
should vote.
Well...
well...
There's an argument to be made for people who... don't pay attention to what's going on. I could see that argument, but it would be better if they learned a few things and then went out and voted. I would say.
So with that said, let's enjoy that. I need to...
Okay, I've got more piles here than I want, but...
Yeah.
Power plant, tower. Okay, we've got a full set of Urza's lands.
And then there's like the people who think the people on the other side are ignorant voters when they're not. There's that too. That can be a lot of fun.
My distribution here is a little bit off from where I thought it was, but that's okay. So, I've got a few oddballs here. But basically how the deck works is it wants a lot of colorless mana in a hurry. So I've got a play set of Chronicles. In this case, again, I used to have my Antiquities ones in here, what I had of the Urza's lands.
All right.
I just like the original card frame.
I gotta cut you off, Void. No more politics talk in chat. We're just gonna put politics behind us now.
So if you get the set out, this one taps for 3.
Oh well,
all
that Arabian. Yeah, you got a lot of Arabian Nights, don't you?
I have not in this deck.
No, but I mean in general.
Do
you have a significant?
I have some Arabian Nights cards.
Okay.
These ones here are Chronicles versions of
all right, Tank, you
the
have
Antiquities cards from the Urza's lands. So I've got...
Go get busy at work.
I never did bother to get one of each art for most of them. I happen to have one of each art for the mines here of the original 4 artwork. The towers, I've got 3 of the plains art. And then I've got 2 of these here, so I'm missing one of the power plants, but
Thank you, Tank.
So I've got that going on there. And then I've also got, because that's only a dozen lands.
This deck is giving me flashbacks to when I was a teen.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a blast from the past, because when did this come out? This was one of the...
That's actually really nice.
2010.
The art's nice on that one.
is basically when the Eldrazi and the Phyrexian invasion of Mirrodin and all those cards were happening, and that's basically around the time period I built this. It may have gotten a few tweaks a little later than that, but not a whole
Oh,
lot.
you didn't show this off last, like in our.
No, I haven't. I haven't really researched that much yet.
Yeah.
So the Glimmer Posts here came out later to enhance the Cloud Posts that were from back in Mirrodin. And Cloud Post never really did much initially because it was the only locust that existed. It comes into play tapped, so it's a little slow, but you get 1 mana for each locust. That only really starts to scale when you can get more than 4 locusts. And that didn't start to happen until Time Spiral, a little while later, where you could get Vesuvas, which could copy your Cloud Post, so you could have up to 8 posts in your deck. And then Glimmer Post came out, which has a different ability, but it counts as a locust, so that's up to 12 posts in the deck. And so I've got those, plus the Urza's lands as ways to accelerate your mana generation from your basic land, from your lands. The only other land I've got in this deck, interestingly, is an Eye of Ugin. Because it plays so nicely with the Eldrazi theme. Colorless Eldrazi spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Now, Ugin himself isn't an Eldrazi and doesn't count as one. So Eye of Ugin will do nothing to help me play Ugin. Except maybe search your library, pay 7 and tap it. Search your library for a colorless creature card. No, it doesn't qualify for that either because it's not a creature. Haha. So Eye of Ugin is useless to help me play Ugin. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Well, it's still good for other things. But it's interesting that the other card in the deck, which is tied to Ugin, is useless for actually playing Ugin. But yeah, incidentally, this means this deck has 25 lands in it, which is more land than I usually like to run in my decks, but for a 60-card deck. But it's not completely unreasonable. Because so many of these lands require either having one of each to make the set, or just lots of posts in play to get more value out of them, I'm also running 4 expedition maps. So this is back from Zendikar. And 1 cost artifact, pay 2 and tap and sacrifice it. Search your library for a land card, not a basic land. Any type of land will do. Reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So this can help you get the pieces you need to finish the Urza set, or just more posts.
Have a good night, Void.
Yep. Thanks again for coming out, Void. It's great to see you, and thanks for supporting us. I also put in a Soul Ring, because why not? You want mana ramp for colorless mana? Can't do much better than that. Oh, speaking of Karn, well, I'll get back into that if I have time later. But Karn, way back in the day, I had a Karn-based deck, basically. So that was one of my first EDH decks, back before Eldrazi existed, trying to make a purely colorless deck with Karn's Silver Golem as the commander was tricky just to find enough lands, because there's no basic lands, at least there weren't at the time, that could tap for colorless. So you could only have 1 copy of anything else. So you needed to find at least 33, 34, preferably more lands that tap for colorless. Anything that had a colored mana symbol.
I was about to click off and got a
wasn't
giant
allowed.
nostalgia wave. He saw the Soul Ring and then he was like, ooh.
Yeah, Soul Ring's a lot of fun. And not just in Commander, but in any vintage type deck, which is usually the rule set I try and build to. Lightning Greaves. Very great in Commander and in this sort of deck too, where you want your creatures to be protected, and being able to attack the turn they come into play is very handy too. I just run 2 copies because I don't want too many duplicates of this, but having 1 is certainly handy. So and I got 1 there from the Phyrexia versus the Coalition dual decks, if you recognize that blast from the past as well. So the other thing I do to accelerate mana, other than the land base and finding the land base, is these ever-flowing chalices. They're not as efficient as Soul Ring by a long shot, but they can be useful. They give me something to do in the middle casting cost area. So it costs 0, multi-kicker 2. Overflowing Chalice enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. And you can kick it as many times as you want if you've got the mana with the multi-kicker. So either it costs you 2 and taps for 1, or if you paid 4, it'll come in and be able to tap for 2 colorless mana like a Soul Ring. Or if you paid 6, you can tap it for 3, etc. So you have to have mana. The more mana you have when you cast it, the more mana you can generate. And then, once they're on the board, I can accelerate them with these little guys. I love Court Tapper. It's one of my favorite uncommons from Darksteel. Darksteel was such a fun set. Whenever they make an artifact-themed sets, things tend to get out of hand. They never really learned that lesson fully, I don't think. Although they do try and be more careful with it. But it was true with Urza's Saga. It was true with Mirrored End Block. It was true with Antiquities to a lesser degree. The power level was just so high then to begin with. But there's some really interesting things every time they try and approach that. But yeah, Court Tapper, your little 1/1 mirror for 2. Tap it to put a charge counter on target artifact. So if I played this for a 2 cost, the turn after I had my Court Tapper out for, say, I could just tap this and increase it by 1. And anytime this might die, I can just choose to sacrifice it, or just whenever I feel like it, to put 2 charge counters on a target artifact. So all of a sudden, one of my Everflowing Chalices that I just dropped for 0, or even dropped for 2, might be tapping for 3, 4, or 5 mana pretty quickly with Core Tappers. And that can really help ramp my mana curve as well. These little bodies might be useful if I'm really desperate for a blocker, but usually not their biggest use. But they can come in handy for some of that. A handy target to have around if I'm looking for something to throw one of these on. I don't like these in general. I find it's putting too much weight on one creature, generally speaking. You're asking to get 2 for 1. But the possibility is there that if it goes through, paying 8 to give it +10/+10, trample, and annihilator 2 is pretty strong. I've got some other little goodies in here too, since tribal sorceries and stuff were being introduced around this time. There weren't a lot of them, but you had your colorless All Is Dust here, basically a wrath effect. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. There weren't a lot of colorless decks around back then. They're still probably not super common, but honestly, despite how ugly Eldrazi are, I think this is a pretty sweet piece of artwork myself. I think it's very well done. And the world it's breaking into looked pretty cool before it decided to start wrecking it. I'll give it that. Yeah, and the quotes like this. Emergence of the Eldrazi isn't necessarily a bad thing, as long as you've already lived a fulfilling and complete life without regrets. Yeah. But that's quite the board wiper that doesn't affect my stuff at all, pretty much, in this deck. So that's
it's a good thing that
nice addition.
My pocket isn't like unlimited at what I can buy, because I'd have a humongous list of what I would be buying to bring home for single cards.
For Pokemon?
Yeah.
Right. I threw in, I think at one point I might have had 2 of these in here, but I only saw 1 just now. So I don't think it was something I wanted too many of in here. Not of This World, which is another tribal instant and colorless. Counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. So spell or ability is nice. And this costs 7 less to cast, so free, if it would target a spell or ability, if the target spell or ability that targets a creature you control, if it targets a creature you control with power 7 or greater. So any of these big Eldrazi beasts in this deck, here's a free counterspell to protect one. And then the Magistrate Scepter I just threw in because of the shenanigans I'm already doing with the Everflowing Chalices and the Core Tappers for charge counters. Being able to throw charge counters on this makes it a lot stronger too. So it's an artifact for 3. You can pay 4 and tap it to put a charge counter on it. And you can tap it and remove 3 charge counters from it to take an extra turn after this one. So again, let's say I drop a core tapper on turn 2. Turn 3, I bring this out. I can tap this to put a charge counter on it right off the bat. And I can just, build up some charge counters for free or pay if I've got nothing else better to do. If this is going to die, I could put 2 more counters on. And as soon as it's got 3 counters, I can just start getting extra turn. Works well as another option. And usually this sucks up my opponent's removal spells quite nicely. Alright, so there's all the mana acceleration and some other tricky stuff the deck can do. The main point of all this ramp was to play some Eldrazi's. So, this was the common one that came out in Rise of the Eldrazi, the good old Ulamog's Crusher. This was the cheapest Eldrazi you could get, it only costing 8 to play, and for that, you got a creature that attacks each turn is 8/8 with Annihilator 2. So they can chump block it, but the Annihilator, whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. It gets pretty nasty once these things start swinging. And being able to swing the turn it comes into play, like I say, that's why those Swift-foot boots are Lightning Greaves, rather, are in here. So I've got some other nasty ones too. This one was quite prominent. It made it into some of the early Commander deck official product lists. The Artisan of Kozilek only costs 1 more at 9. 10/9 still has Annihilator 2. When you cast Artisan of Kozilek, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yep. So you get a reanimation spell, and there's lots of big bodies in here, which might just find their way to the graveyard one way or another. I don't have I don't have any direct discard mechanics in here, but forcing opponents to discard cards and things is pretty common in a lot of decks. Pathraiser of Ulamog, this was the other uncommon one from the original set, original wave of Eldrazi, I should say. 11, you're getting even more ridiculously expensive. But you get a 9/9, can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, and Annihilator 3. And I got a couple of these in here. Oh, there's another Artisan. And then the 2 Pathraisers. And those were all the sort of commonly, like I say, that's the commons and the uncommons. But then you're getting into some other big nasties, like here's It That Betrays. 11/11 for 12. Annihilator 2 only, but whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. So all those things your opponent's sacrificing to Annihilator come back for you. That's particularly nasty, and I kind of like it. So I like to have one of those around as an option. We've got also the big 3, who I'll get into in a second, and Sponsire of Ulamog. This one's only got Annihilator 1, Tisk. It costs 10, which is sort of 10/11 is sort of the, I guess you could say 10/11/12 is sort of the mid-range for Eldrazi costs, which is still obscenely high, but pay 4, put 2/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrificed this to add 1 mana, so you can build up mana availability that way too, although it's slow and clunky. Or you could use one of those to put the Eldrazi conscription on and just start swinging with one if you want.
I don't want to play against that deck.
Yeah, it's not my friendliest deck, although it does take a while to get set up, so it does give your opponents time to get their thing going. Do
you want to play the deck?
Well, that's part of it too.
I mean, you'd be up for playing against.
There's actually 2 decks that I own that I've run this card in. The other one is an elf deck that just generates obscene amounts of mana, because that's the only way I'd have a hope of playing this cost. Even in this deck, 20 is a bit of a stretch. But cast any number of Eldrazi cards you own from outside the game without paying their mana costs. Like I say, I run some Eldrazi in that elf deck, particularly this one and Emrakul. And I also have some Eldrazi in my Eureka deck. So I can go grab any of those from outside the game from my other decks and play them without paying their mana cost if I can get up to this 20 mana with this in play. It, adds some extra spice. A little bit of an extra threat on the board.
I don't want to play this deck.
You already have.
Did I? When?
You beat it.
Did I?
Yes.
When?
Remember when I gave you my big blue vintage deck where you got the endless turn combo with the time vault, and I'd even dropped my first Eldrazi and you took care of it before that. So
I don't even remember.
Anyway.
Well, there you go.
But
You've got decks that can beat it.
Oh, for sure. It's not unbeatable. No deck is. Anyway. So let's go to them in casting cost order. These are the 3 big legendary Eldrazi. I think in the story, they actually managed to kill off these first 2 somehow. So now only Emrakul is left. And probably they've introduced some new ones. But of the original ones, this was the cheapest. And some would say the best deal and most playable of the 3. But when Kozilek, the Butcher of Truth, enter, when you cast it, so it's when you cast it, it's not even when it comes into play. So yeah, as long as it's cast, draw 4 cards, Annihilator 4, whenever this creature attacks defending player, sacrifices 4 permanents. Pretty nasty when you're getting up above, well, anything above 2 is pretty nasty, but 4 is definitely getting up there. When Kozilek is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library. So it gets shuffled right back into your deck if it dies. And I think all the legendary ones have a clause very much like that. Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre, costs 1 more. A little bit smaller instead of a 12/12. It's a 10/10. And when you cast it, you get to destroy target permanent. Annihilator 4 is the same. Ulamog is indestructible. So that's fun. And when it's put into a graveyard from anywhere, it is again, the graveyard is shuffled back into the library. I do like Kozilek better. I do find the Indestructibles, if you're going to play Eldrazi, why play defensive? I'll just put it that way. Then you've got Emrakul, the Eon's Torn, the biggest, baddest of them all. 15 to play, 15/15. It can't be countered. When you cast it, take an extra turn after this one. Flying, protection from colored spells, which is most spells. Annihilator 6. And when Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles it into his or her graveyard. Graveyard into the library. So yeah, your deck, same clause. Very strong. I think this was actually the pre-release card. I don't know where my pre-release copy is, but I know I had one kicking around with the date stamp on it and everything. But yeah.
He's he makes so much noise when he's walking by.
So I guess I'll just sort of organize these by cost. So I'll put the Betrays there and the Spawnsire with probably the Artisans. And there we got some Path Razors. So, how many cards have I got here? There's 2 extra here I can toss there. So this deck is already oversized, I think. Oh, no, maybe not. Yeah, that's a perfect 5 stacks by 3 rows of 5. So there's a 60-card deck. Now, looking at this, well, let's take a second actually and compare the old 7-cost Planeswalker for colorless and the new one. So Karn Liberated, 7 cost, 6 loyalty, +4, target player exiles a card from his or her hand. -3, exile a permanent, obviously is in play, and restart the game, leaving in exile all non-aura permanents cards exiled with Karn Liberated, and then put those cards onto the battlefield in in any order. Interesting that it can't bring back auras. It's been a while since I played with it. I never played with this one too heavily, but it does have some strong abilities.
The Ugin is those are really nice.
They are. So Ugin, when you cast this spell, exile up to one target permanent that's one or more colors. So that's almost an exile a permanent on this one. You can +2 to gain 3 life and draw a card instead of +4 for target player exiles a card from his or her hand. 0 for 3 more mana to help you ramp into those big Eldrazi's. Or -11, search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, and then shuffle. Until end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. So, if you can get this one in play, +2 it twice without interference, loyalty counters are what Planeswalker uses, not charge counters. So I wouldn't be able to use my poor little core tapper here to accelerate the process, although I'd love to, but wrong type of counters that it adds, unfortunately. Yeah, I could then if I can get this to go off, it'll just let me dump whatever of the Eldrazi's that I just showed you into play. And that would end the game quite quickly. And like I said, it only costs 7, but it's got to sit around, and I'd have to protect it. So I imagine there's all kinds of ways of dealing with planeswalkers and that sort of thing now. Like I say, don't seem to be as common as they used to be. Like I said, Lorwyn had 5 planeswalkers when they first introduced them at rare. This most recent Dragonstorm set only has 2 planeswalkers in it, and they're both mythics. So, and I don't remember. Yeah, I know there was no planeswalkers in Tales of Middle-earth. I haven't gotten heavily into any of those other sets. How many were there in Bloomburrow? I don't know. I'm sure there's probably 5 or 6 in Foundations, but again, I'm sure they're all mythics now. Well, maybe not, but most of them seem to be. So what would be best to cut here? I might do away with some of these extra big cost ones. I mean, Ulamog's Crusher just looks so pale in comparison to Ugin, doesn't it? Maybe I could cut 2 of these for Ugins. Does that seem
Ugin
like a good
cool,
plan?
says Dude Wars.
Or should I get rid of the Path Razor? I always found that one a little weak. Should I throw Karn in as well? Just for some extra Planeswalker goodness? Or should I keep it to Ugin and the... I still find it really ironic, though, that the Eye of Ugin is useless for getting Ugin out. You can't search for him. I don't know... Like, I had to look up the story behind Ugin and his connection to the Eldrazi because of that Eye of Ugin card, and it's kind of bizarre. I'm not convinced Ugin is a heroic character in any way. He might actually be secretly one of the big villains of the multiverse, as far as I can tell.
I just like him. He's cool.
He is certainly cool.
I'd want him on my team, not on the other team.
This one, unfortunately, like the sponsor can go get anything I want from outside the game. This has to be from your deck. So, but I have enough colorless cards to just go and get if I put this guy in my vintage, like my big vintage deck. Like I could go get the Time Vault, but I mean I can already do that cheaper with Tezzeret the Seeker and more effectively. Or I can go get like Mana Rocks and Chaos Orb and stuff like that. I could even use it to tutor up the Blightsteel Colossus, but again, Tinker does that cheaper. I don't know. I mean, maybe... Yeah, I think Ugin might be better in this deck, just thematically. Wouldn't perhaps have quite as much synergy over there, even though it could still be effective. I mean, it is just a strong card overall. Yeah, I'm going to have him in here. So what do you think would be better to cut? Cut down on my number of Eldrazi's for the Ugins? A little bit more threatening, perhaps. The rate. I mean, it's a big difference in casting cost, really. 8 versus 11 for an extra 1 point of Annihilator and +1/+1, basically. And then this one's other ability. This is a restrictive ability. This is a harder to block ability. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of either, but maybe I'll cut one of each. Lucas, what are you digging into?
Joe Louise.
I guess he has had supper, so
We bought those a while ago and then they got forgotten.
maybe I should cut 2 crushers and put in the Karn as well.
Yeah. Everybody might not know what a Joe Louis is. Ryan should know what a Joe Louis is.
Oh, I'm sure Brian knows what a Joe Louis is. Yeah, I could try Karn. It's been a while.
Oh, he's going to the bathroom to eat it, as always. He'll get a snack and he'll go to the bathroom and eat it because he can be...
Yeah, so that first Karn deck I made, before they had colorless creatures, colorless instants, all the stuff they introduced with Eldrazi. Really, when I first made that Karn Silver Golem deck for Elder Dragon Highlander, and again at the time the rules were you just... The land base wasn't the only restrictive thing. It was all artifacts and lands, and that was basically it. You had artifacts, including artifact creatures, and lands. So I think I'll try cutting these 3, 2 Crushers and a Pathrazor, to bring in 3 7-cost Planewalkers, a Karn Liberated, and the 2 Eye of Ugins, and see if that's a big improvement. It should be a little bit easier to cast. And these are probably not the ones I would be tutoring up with Eye of Ugin anyway, unless I was really desperate for something low. And I've still got at least one of each of them in there, so if I do want to tutor them up. And then I can test out these Planeswalkers in here as well with my Eldrazi. So I'm going to have to switch these.
You never did get the Blueberry deck built, did you?
No. I think, didn't we build it?
I don't know. I think we were putting things that might work. I don't know.
So, these 2 sides are functional.
Ryan's response.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's not about the Joe Louis, although it could be.
His lips are zipped.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that was sorry, I missed the tail of the zipper. I thought that was just a nervous look.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this one is 2-sided. I am playing
Brinley, no, that's Ezra. That's
blackback
Lucas's.
sleeves.
Give it to me.
So,
Isabel, take that chocolate away from her. That's Lucas's.
Anyway, since this is an art question, I'm a Spokat.
Yes.
You like the baby art better or the adult art better?
I think I like the adult better.
So do I think. I mean, the baby's kind of cute, but it really doesn't match.
It's a creepy baby. It's like creepy, but kind of cute, but kind of creepy. But the adult one is just so much cooler.
I would tend to agree.
Oh, Brinley. That's not keeping Brinley quiet while we're doing this.
No, it's not.
Shh, Brinley. Shh. You can't have any more chocolate. It's too close to bedtime. I want snack. Yeah, Ryan agrees. The adult. Want a snack? Brinley comes out screaming. Everybody goes away.
This Ghostfire foil is pretty
Oof.
nice too, I must admit.
Oh my goodness.
I do like the looks of that. Although it does wash some of the detail. The overall effect is pretty. If I can spin it that way.
No, do you want strawberry?
And then the Karn is already in a blackback sleeve because I was using it in another deck, so.
What do you want?
I'll throw that in here. And yeah, I mean, like I say, this isn't a serious tournament level deck or anything. My more serious tournament level deck wiped the floor with it. But it's fun and it can do some pretty crazy stuff once it gets going.
No, not there.
One more thing, which I will show since I've got it handy here. And we got a little time. Just to demonstrate the point that I do have other Eldrazi's near at hand if I had to go search them up. It is one of my other decks, which is fun but can do some powerful stuff. Now this one's a little out of order. I do like cards that let you go get stuff from outside the game. I don't use them in every deck by any means, but back when Judgment came out, I actually opened a pair of Living Wishes, and I still use them to this day when I have a sort of a off-brand fun deck. Choose a creature or land you own from outside the game, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, and then remove this from the game. You know how many, just depending on what you got in your hand, sometimes you just want that extra land for your mana fixing or curve or whatever. But being able to get any land or creature card, there's just so many stinking options. Such a strong play. A good old Demonic Tutor. Spirit of the Night. Again, this is the Eureka deck. So, yeah, it's got a lot of big, nasty creatures that can come out and play. This was one of the original big nasties. Spirit of the Night back in Mirage, 1996. Yep. Originally, there were three cost commons, I believe, in the set that you could sacrifice one of each to pop this one into play instead of paying the 9, which was oppressive even then. But a 6/5 flying trample, protection from black, first strike when attacking. Spirit of the Night is unaffected by summoning sickness, so basically haste. Very nasty card. The protection from black actually was put on there as a safety switch on this thing of sorts, which kept it from being reanimated with cards like Animate Dead and what's the Ice Age one called?
I don't know.
Anyway, there's two enchantments that are well known from the early days that people used to use to pitch a black spell in a black creature, big one in their graveyard, and bring back. So yeah, that kept you from doing that with this. Got a good old Grizzlebrand. It was 2012. I was still collecting. I managed to get one of these. So there's that. One of my future plans, I probably plan to do next week actually, is one of the last sets I got before I started, took my 10-year hiatus, was Return to Ravnica, I believe it was called. They've recently done Ravnica Remastered, and I get some of the names mixed up. But yeah, I liked the original Ravnica, and I did get some of that, over a booster box worth, and built some decks out of it. And they've basically been sitting in the box. I never found someone to actually play with. So I'm going to go through those and take a look at my collection of that set from the time just before I stopped, and maybe we'll try a game with them or something. Anyway, but Grizzlebrand, another big, just nasty 8 cost 7/7 flying lifelink. Draw more cards if you wanna. Like, it's just. And there's the Emrakul and the Ulamog, extra. Now, some of these, like Progenitus here, I can't even cast just with the mana base in this deck. I need to trick it out with Eureka or other things. So here's 2 Italian Eurekas I got from the Italian Legends we opened years ago. And yeah, 10 mana, 2 of each color. What do you expect for that? Well, protection from everything. Yeah, and again, it's got a shuffle back clause, so it can't be a reanimation target, just like the Eldrazi do. That doesn't matter when you're dropping it as part of your forecast sorcery over here. Then I got my green and black lands, collection of them. This is just an uncommon, but I mean, gaining 7 life sometimes is relevant. And it's one that I can cast if I am restricted to just the mana in the deck. And I always like to include a few snow-covered lands. Got mana elves.
Raylan says, cool card.
Yeah. I like being able to drop some of these big uncastable monsters sometimes, and that's why I like to build these crazy decks that can either build a bazillion mana to do it directly, or something like Eureka, which can just trick them out into play.
What was...
Shards of Alara was an interesting experience when that first came out.
What was the deck that your brother hated to play the most that you built?
Hated
Yeah.
to play against? You'd have to ask him. We both built some pretty nasty decks and combos at times.
Yeah, the artwork is pretty amazing in this set.
Yeah.
And these cards.
All damage that would be dealt to you is instead dealt to this. Like, that's basically the old veteran bodyguard, but much stronger. And Eradicate. This is, oh yeah, here's the other part. So this was my nasty surprise. If I'm not tricking out a huge creature, I need to do something to slow down my opponent. So what I would do, usually if you're playing a mana base and you want to be safe, you run a lot of basic lands. Especially if you're monocolored, you usually have a lot of basic lands because they're pretty safe and pretty common. But animate land until end of turn. Target land is a 3/3 creature that's still a land. I can animate one of my opponent's mountains or whatever, and then eradicate it. Remove target non-black creature from the game. Search its controller's graveyard, hand, and library for all copies of that card and remove them from the game. That player then shuffles his or her library. So all of a sudden, your mono red deck has lost all its mountains, exiled right out of the deck, right out of your hand, everywhere. Or, even against a 2-color deck, whichever color looks like it'll most be hobbled by not having any basic lands around. Yeah, that can be a nasty trick to slow your opponent down big time. Good old mana elves. And incidentally, that combo specifically is one of the reasons I like to include snow-covered lands in my deck, because they're a different card with a different title, and if you're targeting basic forests, the snow-covered forests will be safe. Won't be able to be stripped out, so always nice to have some fail-safe planning. I don't think I missed anything there. Yeah. Oh, this was one of the anthologies, I think. Elves. There's so many different printings of that thing. Here's a 4th edition one. Elvish Piper, also good for getting big beasties from your hand into play. Pay a green and tap it. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you don't have to worry about casting Progenitus. You can just pop it out with this. If your opponent lets this live long enough to do its thing.
What are you getting a spoon for? And Lucas goes to his
Avatar
room.
of Fury was probably the one I used the most, but Avatar of Woe is not bad either. And this one was from Time Spiral. It was one of their time-shifted cards, the purple symbol there. It was the first time you had sort of special guest cards. And so you got your 6/5 Fear. So basically, can only be blocked by black creatures. And tap to destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. If there are 10 or more creature cards total in all graveyards, I mean, that happens a lot in Commander. It's a little rarer in Duel, but it can happen. Costs 6 less to play, so sometimes you can cast this for 2 in the late game. Another Worm. Time of Need. This can be fun. Search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. There's a few legendary options in here. Again, more animate lands and eradicates and dark rituals to play it all faster. So good. One more elf. This is definitely a more recent printing. 1 bone broken for every twig snapped underfoot. M10. This is the first Eureka I ever got. My brother picked one of these up for me years ago. It's not in great shape, but it's English. So I got 3 total of these in the deck to trick out big stuff. But it's a fair, fun card, especially in something like Commander. You could have a lot of fun with this. Both players, and I think that's basically errated to all players, you go around the circle, may take any permanent in their hand and put it directly into play. Players take turns placing one card from their hand until neither wants to play more permanents.
Isabel.
No other spells or effects of any kind may be used while Eureka is in effect.
Be quiet about it.
So enter the play effects are suspended until this is done resolving. If a spell had X in its casting cost, X equals 0. So that does take a bit of the hit off the Eldrazi. But they're still big bodies, and yeah. So this deck basically enjoys the fact that it, generally speaking, has bigger, nastier creatures to drop out for free with this than your opponents will.
Oh, it smells good.
There's another Emerald Archangel. Good old Spirit Monger. Now, this one isn't so big that it's game-breaking, but it's castable, which is pretty nice. And Regenerate is a decently useful ability.
We usually do our streams later.
Yes, part of the reason for doing our streams later is usually the kids are in bed, but unfortunately today, or fortunately, today we've got the election on and we really want to see what the results are when they start to go live. So
they're starting to trickle.
They're starting to trickle in already, but the bulk of them will hit around the time this stream ends. So,
want to see what the snack of the day is?
Snack of the day. That does look tasty.
So good.
So yeah, the Hellkite Overlord. This, if you recall, when I showed off the From the Vault Dragons, was a future card in that product for the 15th anniversary of Magic. It was not released yet, but when Shards of Alara came out, and Sarkhan Vol, look at that, he's also features in the story of Dragonstorm, Tarkir Dragonstorm, I should say. This is still a pretty nasty little dragon. I think I've used it in my Dragonstorm deck.
Yes.
As one of the ones to search up, just because it's big and hasty and very lethal. But it also plays nicely here. 8 casting cost is pretty high, but for that you're getting an 8/8 flying trample haste with fire breathing and regeneration. This thing has been, it's not legendary or anything, but it's just a big old dragon, and it's one of the biggest, nastiest dragons out there. There are obviously bigger, nastier ones, but this one it does a good job of what it does, coming down and hitting fast and hard. And with regeneration, you can even keep it around sometimes. So
this is better
another
than
Elvish Piper
than a normal coffee crisp.
But yeah, so this is just another one of my fun decks that can do some nasty stuff that I pull out sometimes. And it's one of those places I might go if I'm looking for more Eldrazi that I have from outside the game with Sponsire of Ulamog to go find.
Lucas keeps tromping
Some
back
more.
and forth, making tons of noise, and it's like not as bad as Brinley running by in yellow. But this is better than a regular coffee crisp because it's like mixed in, like it's not just all like wafer and then coated with the chocolate.
Fair enough.
It's like, I think we should let Papa Spokat try one. And then he can continue talking. There you go. They're not small. You need to show them the size it is.
I mean, part of that is pretty thin at the end, but I mean,
yeah,
it's a good sized chunk of chocolate and debris.
Chocolatey clusters of coffee crisp and graham crackers. So good. This is like the chocolate bar that a lot of people from the United States want from Canada. This is like as far as I know, the #1 chocolate.
Interesting.
Yeah. Aside from Smarties.
But yeah,
Smarties.
as far as I remember, now that there's a couple more people in the chat, maybe someone can answer my question. Planeswalkers were always sort of legendary. Basically, there was some rule very similar to legend rule as to how they worked. If another one came out, were they both buried or something like that? In any case, now it's everyone I've seen printed recently, they're legendary planeswalkers. So I'm curious why the change is and what that means in terms of difference. Could you have multiple of these in play now and before you couldn't? Is this because legendary as a term no longer affects your opponent even? It used to.
I don't know.
If your opponent had it, it would affect you trying to play things or vice versa. Is that so that you could use planeswalkers in a commander? Is that why they put that there? Is that like as your commander? Why are planeswalkers legendary planeswalkers now? Is that a change since the whole War of the Spark thing where they desparked a bunch of them? And there's something different about the new planeswalkers?
I don't know.
I don't know. If anyone can clarify that for me, I would love to know the details. Planeswalkers were always a little bit strange, and I don't think they were a great addition to the game overall. I'm not sure Mythic Rares were either when they brought that in, to be honest. But yeah, how come Planeswalkers are now legendary? If you know, I'd love to find out. So yeah, I'm guessing you don't feel up to testing this today.
My brain's broken.
Yeah, I figured.
I'm not sure
and we don't have a lot of time to do it either, but
no. But if anyone,
but I
wants
think
to
this
see
is
it,
this is going to be where I'm going to test out Ugin, because while it doesn't work well at all with Eye of Ugin, which is just, I still find that befuddling. It does seem like it will play nicely in this deck, which I already had built and ready to go. So I'm neat to go through the deck. If anyone has any suggestions for cards that I could add to improve this, generally I find it works all right. I mean, it's not aching. It can be a little slow and clunky to get going with the split mana base, trying to get either this mechanic going or this mechanic going to build up your mana quickly. Trying to do both at once usually just slows you down. But yeah, it does tend to work. It just takes a little setup time.
I wonder. I'm just wondering what people would like to see.
Maybe I should have cut the Eldrazi conscriptions, because they're reliant on you having another creature to buff. I don't know. Would that be a better cut than Ulamog's Crusher or
How many people just like to watch you go through
Pathrazer
and talk?
Well, that could be it too. My collection is a little bit haphazard. This isn't ancient stuff for the most part. Rise of Eldrazi wasn't that long ago. Glimmer Post came out in 2010, so yeah, that's not that long ago either.
Oh.
Yeah, 2009, 2000, yeah. Karn Liberated was 2011.
Do you remember the commercial that had the old lady sitting at a table and asking, the one was like, how do you like your coffee? And there was like a British lady or something like that, and she'd be like, I like my coffee crisp. Something like that.
Yeah, that was a cheesy ad.
I loved it though.
It was kind of fun in its way. Yeah, All Is Dust was one of my favorite of the Eldrazi.
That is a really pretty art.
Yeah, I was saying that they did a good job on this one.
With the light, the sunlight from behind it.
I mean, the Eldrazi themselves are horrifying to look at, but the land around it and stuff as it's breaking in is really well done.
Yeah.
Eldrazi Conscription is, yeah, kind of freaky, but that's where you go. I'm sure there's lots of other better uses for Vesuva. I think I've heard people using it with Dark Depths and other things, and I'm not sure what the trick is there, but honestly, I've always found, I think this deck specifically was one of the reasons I sought out 4 copies, so that I could play it with the Cloud Posts. I do have a 5th Cloud Post somewhere, but you can't run 5 in a deck, so I think that one was part of my Karn Silver Golem deck for a while, so I could have it 1 copy in that and still have a play set for another deck that just wanted the potential mana acceleration element. So there we are. So this is my Eldrazi deck. Like I said, we've featured it once on the channel before this in a game, but I never went through exactly what's in it and how it's supposed to work. So now I've had the chance to do that and give Ugin a new home to try out. So I don't think he's particularly friendly with the Eldrazi, but he certainly, his story is connected to theirs in some way, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Maybe that's going to have putting him in here is going to have a bad effect on the artisans, because now there's less Ulamog's crushers and things to end up in the graveyard. Because yeah, you can't return planeswalkers with this, only creatures. So maybe I should, I don't know, keep it to more creatures.
I don't know. I'm just here to say, ooh, that's pretty.
Should I keep Karn out and put one of the other ones back in?
I don't know. You need people who know what they're doing to give you advice.
I guess I don't know. I could try that. Oh, choices, always choices.
To the two people that are watching, and one which may be me, what do you think? We like feedback.
Yeah, I think we've lost everybody at this point. These big, scary, colorless monsters aren't really what Magic was ever meant to be about. It was meant to be more classic fantasy, and I think Magic does better as classic fantasy. Here, look at a pretty
shiny dragon. That's what look how pretty that is with the...
That is a nice looking card. I still don't know if it's a good card or how I'm going to use it, but I do think it's got potential.
This is just really pretty. You may cast dragon spells without playing their mana cost. That's,
Right. So just play dragons for free. You still got to get this into play somehow first, and
isn't
that's
there a
why
card
I
that
think
you can find something from your deck and put it in, or from you can go through your deck and find a card and put it in, or
there are cards. There are cards that can search up enchantments. Yes, I think was it Mother of Runes or was it?
This is one we picked up today, right?
Yes.
Because that one's pretty cool.
That one, like I said, I want to toss in my Dragonstorm deck because it already uses mana
rituals. You said
rituals.
that was one that you were considering when I pointed it out and said, ooh, that's nice. Or something.
The one you pointed out and said was nice was a different one we picked up. But
I know, but I did a few of them. And then you're like, yeah I was thinking about getting that one.
This one, yeah, it was one. Because I think it would make a neat addition to my Dragonstorm deck. Just as an alternative when I don't actually draw one of the 4 Dragonstorms. This can still do something a little similar. For less mana, so...
Wait, is this like a dragon that's like coming out of another dragon? That almost looks like
it's a dragon that's coming out of the storm.
Oh, okay, because it looks like it's being born, like out of the dragon, kind of like that. Looks like it's like the insides of a dragon.
Yeah, well, if you read the flavor text on this one, it says dragons of Tarkir are born fully formed, roars blending with the sounds, or with the storms, as a single inseparable voice.
My goodness.
So the Dragonstorm is a pretty crazy, powerful event, and yeah.
Oh, wait, where's that other dragon we picked up? Is this what all the ones we picked up today?
Yeah, that's the stuff we picked up today for the most part.
This one's cute. Look at that cute little one. Is that hatching or is that just, I don't know. It's cute. I like it.
Disruptive storm.
Did you show all these yet?
I went through them quickly, yes.
Well, for people who might not have seen them. This one I liked.
Yeah.
That's one I pointed out, I think. Here. And then we saw this one. It's like a...
Yeah, that's one I tried to show you.
But I saw it sitting in the binder. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. And then you're...
Yeah. I kind of like the Omen Dragons, and the ones with off-color abilities seem to be extra interesting for some reason.
There's a lot of really cool dragons in this set.
Yeah.
This one I don't remember seeing. You must have
This was just a card that I enjoy playing with. I think it's, a well-designed counterspell. And then Magna
Blue
River
Dragon.
Regent. Yeah.
Blue Dragon.
I already talked
and another
about
turtle.
That one. Yeah, and the turtle.
And then that's the other one.
That's the other one that you thought the art was really good on. And honestly, like I said, it reminds me of...
well, it's a lilac tree or something, right?
Of Mystic Boa or whatever it's called. So
not right now.
Light bulb.
You know where the light bulbs are. Go do what you got to do.
Doubling Season, add extra counters on your Planeswalkers. Yeah, I heard Doubling Season does that, and I'm sure they've printed other cards that do something similar.
So I don't...
But Doubling Season is green.
I don't love snakes, but I think the art in this is just really nice with the lilac and the purple snake. It's just cute.
But yeah, having a Doubling Season
that's my thoughts on that.
Would help a lot of Planeswalkers get to their ultimate ability right away, I'm sure.
We don't have any more Christmas lights. They're all done. You gotta wait till Christmas. Go draw pictures.
I do have 2 copies of Doubling Season from the original printing in Ravnica that I've been holding ever since then. And back then, it wasn't as impressive as it is now because there weren't as many things that used counters and such. extreme
That's
ways.
fun.
It can be. It certainly makes life interesting.
Like how many times can your kid come and ask you for light bulbs in a single 5 minutes?
Yeah,
You'd be surprised,
you would be surprised.
especially Christmas lights.
I do think that breaching Dragonstorm here is a potential way to trick this out faster within the set, but I don't think it's the most efficient way. You'd need, again, you have to construct your deck very specifically and probably have a way to put cards back on top of your deck, which there are ways of doing that, manipulating what the top card of your deck is. But anyway, maybe I'll figure something out for one of these one of these days. But yeah. Anyway, trying to think what else. Yeah, doubling season. I don't think would be the best addition to this deck again because this deck is colorless.
Not now. We'll
But
talk
it
about
certainly
later.
does work well with a lot of cards, including Planeswalkers now, as I understand it. Planeswalkers didn't exist at the time doubling season came out. So.
Are you done showing this stuff off? Do you want to just put it back on your
Yeah, I think with this deck we've gotten pretty much together. So
We'll
I'll
talk
stack
about it
up
later.
all these fun little Eldrazi cards with the Ugins. It betrays and
I almost want to just
all the
kinda
mana
like-
acceleration. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to remember that this needs to be distributed before I use it again. Anyway,
Does anybody have ideas what they'd like to see in future
tappers,
like streams
every
from
40
Magic
counts.
related streams?
Like I said, I wanted to go over that the Ravnica decks I made. Maybe even play them against each other because I think that'll be.
I wish we could get like your
fun
brother to
little
come out
stream.
and kind of play against you, because then it'd be nice to see somebody who's experienced.
I would love to get some local people to come out and play one of these days, or every so often somebody to stop
What
in.
about the guy who used to play in the Magic group?
I asked once. He's pretty busy right now, and
Oh yeah, okay.
if I can get a hold of somebody, that might be fun to do at some point. But
Or if
need to
they're
find
ever-
someone local.
if they're not busy at that other store, maybe.
Yeah,
If he'd be up for that. You never know. You never know.
you never know.
Just go do a tour around different Magic playing stores and be like, who wants to do a video with me or join a live stream and play?
Who knows? If we ever get a place where you can sit down and play in our own town again, the one we
Yeah.
had last time didn't last very long, unfortunately.
No, people moved away, I think.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for joining us. And
They bought their house eventually.
I might. No, they didn't. They never had a place to sit down and play there.
No, we bought their house.
That's
Troy was part of the group.
yes.
Yeah, he
he
was the one
wasn't
who wants-
involved with the store.
No, I'm not talking about the store.
Whatever.
Because there was a playing group. You guys would just get together and play. Not the other store. Sorry. Never mind. Just ignore
Anyway.
me. I don't know what I'm
Oops.
talking about.
So there. These Dragonstorm decks, honestly, I think I have the most fun building just out of the pile there, those two decks. That was a lot of fun. All new cards. Takes a while to learn the new cards. I managed to play it. We played a game or two with each other. Did we try one with Thomas or somebody as well?
I don't know.
Not with that, I don't think. Too many new cards. Maybe one day. But I also got to track down my brother and play, get around with him. And
I don't
enjoyed
mind
that, too.
helping Thomas.
So I
to-
like this set. I like
play
the
a
new
bit.
cards, and I haven't been able to do that for a while. And the last time I had previously done it,
Should we find
since I
somebody
never
to
got
bug
decks
even if
built
there's only a
with
few?
Tales of Middle Earth, was with the Return to Ravnica. So I think I'll pull that out next week. We'll take a look at
Yeah, you're
what
gonna
I
be getting
ended
off
up with
day shift,
that
so.
set. And the two decks I built that are just sitting there in a box that we can try
And it'll be
playing
a
against each
regular
other.
time
One is a Rakdos deck,
next week.
and the other one is a 3-color Bant deck, I believe. So it's got all the colors covered, and then it's just the fun cards I found to put in those decks. Some of which I discovered in the past year when I came back that a card I thought, oh, this is neat, I'll try it out and threw it in the deck. Turns out it's become quite popular in Commander. So go figure. See if you can guess what that might be from that set. But I'm sure there's a couple of options. Yeah. I'm still catching up on some of these rule changes and things, but Magic is an interesting game, and I still appreciate it every so often. I really think that Tarkir Dragonstorm is the most classically Magic set I've seen since I got back into it. Perhaps, well, no, I shouldn't say that because Foundations was pretty classic Magic. I'll give it that. Although it's for a base set, I still think it had too much multicolor and other odds and ends thrown in that aren't necessary. Bloomborough, that was a nice, fun theme. I did appreciate that one.
I wouldn't mind
And there were
opening a
some
whole
neat
booster box,
mechanics.
though. That'd be fun.
It could be in some of the other sets too, but overall, Dragonstorm's probably been the most fun to play with, I would say. The one that actually got me to build decks and get playing with them most quickly anyway, quicker than the Lord of the Rings set did, and quicker than Bloomborough did. So still want to dabble with that at some point. But I'd say those are probably my highlight set since I came back. Actually, was the Tales of Middle-earth: Lord of the Rings, which is what got me back into it, despite some of the crossover theme issues. Bloomborough, which was a cute little set, which was worth exploring a little bit. Foundations, okay. Nothing, like I've seen lots of base sets. It was an okay one. It wasn't anything too special. And then Tarkir Dragonstorm was just a blast in a couple ways. So, and I got some, despite not the luck I was looking for, I was really hoping to get more of those Dragon Islands. I did get a bit of luck running into those Ugins, and I'm anxious to try them out. Some of the other hits I got there are good too, but they're going to take a little bit more work to figure out where they're going to fit into existing strategies or come up with something completely new. And I don't have as much time to put into deck building and thoughts, especially when I'm working on other stuff too, like trying to figure out the Harry Potter trading card game. And
That game is actually fun.
It is fun, and it's simpler.
Which I like.
So it's a little bit easier to deck build for that, but again, still limitations, still something new.
All right.
And
I know there's not.
been enjoying
Oh,
that
look,
as
we
well.
got some people here. If you guys can stick around for the raid, we're gonna raid Civic. He raided us not too long ago.
Fair enough. Incidentally,
yeah.
if you're looking for just a little bit of Magic themed fun, this week I was revisiting some of Remy's songs, sort of Weird Al themed songs.
Oh, he's
around Magic
hilarious.
the Gathering. He does a good job on some of those. They're good fun. So I'd
Well,
suggest,
maybe we'll
suggest checking out some of his stuff one of these days.
we should share one of the videos just on a post.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, so you guys can see what we mean.
But
he's quite creative. He's talented too.
Yeah. And he has fun with it. Some of it are keyed around certain cards or deck playing or game playing situations. Some of them are just riffs on a familiar tune. Sometimes he includes little animations, sometimes he doesn't. But generally, he's got some fun stuff in there.
I do have the redirect on, so I mean, you can stick around for the redirect, or you can click that link and just say "spoke at raid," hit the like button.
Fair enough. Again, thanks for coming out. And if anyone has any, like I said, ideas for the deck, ideas for a video, or answering some of my questions in my 10-year gap, I still don't understand why they went to legendary planeswalkers.
Another child.
But yeah, please feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thanks for coming out, and I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with this these election results.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night. We appreciate you. Hey, founder. We'll see you guys probably, if not before. I guess our next stream day is Thursday, so I might do a pop-up live in earlier in the day, regular time. But I also might wait for him to come home. It'll be 7 Mountain Time ish, 8 Mountain Time. Yeah, we'll be going live around that time. Probably for sure, because it's more fun when he's there. I have way more fun when he's there. So, Ezra, shh, you're so loud.
Well, water makes me go eh.
Oh, water makes you go ah?
Yeah.
All right, guys. You have a good night.
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance, Founder, to check out that last Harry Potter video.
I think she did, yeah.
She did? Okay, good. Because we were thinking of you.
Yeah.
That was quite a surprise, and we got some some neat little
Yeah.
things to add to the collection out of that one. So that was fun.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys soon. Please stick around for the raid. It's Civic. Spoke Out Raid. Hit the like button, and if you like them, stick around. Have a good one. Have a good night. We'll
Bye
see you
for
soon.
now.
Bye for now. Yeah, the castle backdrop was pretty awesome. Yeah. Bye.
Bye for now.